Faith Hill stepped onto the set of The View with the same calm confidence that had carried her through decades of performing on the biggest stages in the world. She wasn't there to spark controversy or create headlines. She was simply ready to talk about her music, her journey, and the things closest to her heart. The audience cheered as she entered, her cream-colored blazer glowing under the studio lights and her warm smile instantly lighting up the room. Whoopi Goldberg welcomed her with genuine affection, setting a friendly tone that made the first few minutes of the interview feel relaxed and familiar. Faith talked about reconnecting with music after years spent prioritizing her family, and she spoke with the same raw honesty that had always made her fans adore her. Sarah chimed in with questions about motherhood, career balance, and the emotional challenges of stepping away from the spotlight. Everything was flowing smoothly, exactly the kind of interview Faith had expected. Sunny brought up her philanthropic work, highlighting the heartfelt efforts Faith had made beyond the stage. Faith responded with grace and enthusiasm, making the audience nod along with admiration. For a moment, it felt like a perfect morning show moment, uplifting, warm, and grounded. But then Joy leaned forward. Her tone wasn't hostile, but there was a spark, the kind of spark that suggested she was about to shift the energy in the room. She started by asking Faith about her long marriage, joking that 20-plus years together in Hollywood was like a century. Faith smiled politely and explained that marriage is about choosing each other every single day. But Joy pushed deeper, mentioning tabloid stories, rumors, and constant public scrutiny. The air tightened. Faith's smile softened into something more guarded. Whoopi glanced at Joy, sensing the shift. The audience sensed it too. Joy asked whether Faith really believed these rumors came from nowhere, hinting that there's usually fire where there's smoke. It was subtle, but sharp enough to change everything. Faith straightened in her chair. The warmth in her voice remained, but a firmness settled beneath it. She asked Joy directly whether she was asking a real question or implying something much deeper. That single moment, the pause, the stare, the unspoken tension, was the spark that would turn a simple morning interview into one of the most discussed segments in daytime TV. And this was only the beginning. The tension that had quietly settled between Faith and Joy began to thicken, spreading across the studio like an unexpected storm cloud. The audience, moments ago laughing along with lighthearted questions, now sat motionless, their eyes darting between the two women like spectators at a championship match. Even the co-hosts sensed that this was no longer a routine interview. Something deeper, sharper, and far more personal had awakened. Joy leaned back in her chair, her expression unreadable but her posture firm. As if preparing for a debate she fully intended to win. "I'm just asking what everyone else is thinking," she said casually. But her words carried weight. When tabloids keep reporting the same kinds of stories over and over, people start wondering. Faith wasn't smiling now. Her eyes remained steady, not angry, but focused, the look of someone who had been pushed too far, too many times. "Joy," she replied, "you're not asking what people are thinking. You're repeating what tabloids create to sell magazines. That's not journalism." The studio fell even quieter. Joy straightened, crossing her arms, as if the challenge energized her. "I didn't say the rumors were true. I just asked how you deal with them." "That's a fair question." But the tone said otherwise. It was a tone sharpened from years of unfiltered commentary. Faith took a breath, her voice calm but unmistakably firm. "There's curiosity, and then there's insinuation. You're not asking how I deal with rumors. You're asking why rumors exist at all, as if they must be rooted in something real." Sunny attempted to mediate, her voice soft and steady, emphasizing the legal complexities behind celebrity privacy. Sarah stepped in as well, trying to reframe the conversation around the idea of boundaries and respect. But neither woman could fully pull the conversation away from the magnetic force between Faith and Joy. Joy pressed again. "People see what they see." "Faith, you don't think constant stories come from somewhere?" Faith leaned forward slightly, meeting Joy's gaze without blinking. "They come from gossip. They come from people who make money by tearing down families. They do not come from truth." For the first time, Joy's expression flickered, something between irritation and acknowledgement. But she kept going. Faith continued, her frustration no longer hidden. "You're not just discussing things that exist in the public," she said. You're legitimizing them by bringing them here. On national television, as if they deserve to be discussed. The audience held their breath. Even Whoopi looked unsure whether to intervene or stay silent. And the moment was building towards something even more explosive. Lorraine's studio fell into a heavy silence as the crew processed what had just happened. Colin Firth's sudden outburst wasn't just unusual, it was unprecedented. For decades, he had been the gold standard of calm, polite British charm. The man who walked off set a minute ago felt like someone entirely different. And Lorraine, Kelly knew the world would erupt the moment the footage aired. Backstage, Colin paced furiously, running a hand through his hair as assistants hovered nearby, unsure whether to approach or give him space. His jaw was tight, his breathing sharp, and it was clear that whatever had triggered him had been simmering long before. Today's interview. Cameras were still rolling in the hallway. Something he didn't realize, capturing every step of his meltdown. Meanwhile, Lorraine regained her composure on live television. With years of experience steering through scandals, she straightened her cards, forced a professional smile, and addressed the audience. "Well, that was unexpected," she said, choosing her words carefully. "We'll take a quick break and be right back." Even, she could feel her heartbeat racing. The moment the show cut to commercials, producers rushed in. Olivia, the senior producer, marched toward Lorraine with a phone already buzzing. Social media. Clips from studio insiders were spreading before the segment had even finished. "It's everywhere," Olivia said breathlessly. Someone backstage leaked a 10-second clip. Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, it's blowing up. Lorraine sighed. "Of course it is." Back in the hallway, Colin finally stopped pacing when his manager, David, arrived. "Colin, mate, what happened?" he whispered sharply. "He ambushed me," Colin snapped. "I came here to talk about a charity project, and she twisted everything. Every question was a jab. About my divorce, my last film flopping, even my son. I'm done letting people drag my personal life into this circus." But walking out made it worse, David warned. "They have the whole thing on camera." Colin knew he was right, but the anger was too deep to hide. "Let them air it," he said coldly. "Let the world see. I'm done being polite for people who don't respect boundaries." As he marched toward the exit, paparazzi were already swarming the building. Shutters clicked, reporters shouted his name, and the speculation machine roared to life. The meltdown wasn't just a TV incident anymore. It was a full-blown media storm. Lorraine watched the chaos unfold from a monitor inside the studio, rubbing her temples. "This is going to haunt me all week," she muttered. As night settled over London, the situation reached a boiling point. News outlets ran the story on repeat, dissecting every second of the confrontation. Commentators offered theories. Psychologists weighed in on stress and burnout. And fan debates raged so fiercely that hashtags kept rotating in and out of the trending section. Both Colin Firth and Lorraine Kelly had become the center of a global storm. Neither had expected when the day began. In a quiet hotel suite overlooking the Thames, Colin sat alone with his phone turned face down on the table. He had avoided the internet for hours, but that didn't stop the world from demanding he speak. His manager, David, entered the room with 2 cups of tea and a look that was equal parts exhaustion and sympathy. "It's time," David said gently. "If you don't address it tonight, someone else will shape the story for you." Colin picked up the warm cup and stared into the steam. "I don't want to attack Lorraine. She doesn't deserve that. But I also won't pretend everything's fine." "You don't need to attack anyone," David replied. "Just be honest. People connect with that." Colin nodded slowly. The pressure of the past few months, the relentless interviews, the invasive questions, the personal losses he never discussed publicly, had been building like a storm cloud. Today had simply been the lightning strike. Meanwhile, at her home studio office, Lorraine was drafting her own statement. Papers were scattered across the desk, her phone buzzing nonstop. She looked exhausted, the day's weight visible in every movement. Olivia, the producer, sat beside her, reviewing multiple drafts. "I want to apologize," Lorraine said finally. "But I also want to clarify that I wasn't trying to hurt him. I just pushed too hard." "That's fair," Olivia replied. "Honest, but responsible." At 9:47 p.m., Lorraine posted first. Her statement acknowledged that she might have crossed a line, expressing regret for making Colin uncomfortable and emphasizing her respect for him. She didn't blame him, didn't accuse him. She simply owned her part. Fans responded instantly. Many praised her maturity, while others argued she shouldn't apologize for doing her job. Still, her tone softened the conversation. 10 minutes later, Colin's statement appeared. He wrote about stress, the responsibility of public life, and how the pressure had reached a breaking point. He expressed gratitude for Lorraine's apology and apologized in return for walking out so abruptly. He admitted he had been overwhelmed, but insisted he never intended to disrespect the audience or the show. Within minutes, the tone of the entire internet shifted. Headlines changed from Colin Firth's snaps to both stars' address. By midnight, the storm was finally settling. Colin turned off his phone, exhaled deeply, and let the quiet return. Lorraine did the same across the city, closing her laptop with a tired smile. For the first time that day, both felt a sense of peace.